Do you ever feel like you need to subscribe to some of the ideologies that the Young Turks, like the organization as a whole, subscribes to? You don't feel like that at all?
There's been pressure. By the way, let me just be clear about this. In terms of TYT's leadership and management, absolutely not. I love how hands-off they are in that regard. I have never been told by anyone in a position of power at TYT that I need to believe something or I need to say something. I feel so deeply respected there, which is why I've been loyal to TYT. I've been there for 17 years. And a lot of people are like, oh, why don't you leave and do your own thing? I don't know if you guys are familiar with Jonathan Haidt. My moral foundations certainly include loyalty. I score very high in the loyalty area. So like, I feel very loyal to TYT given how wonderful the leadership and management has been to me. But they are different from some of the past employees we've had who want to force me to believe certain things that I don't believe. So I'm obviously a woman, female, and I think I should be allowed to engage in conversations about how language changes in order to be more inclusive to any community, but certainly lately it's more about like the transgender community. I have no ill will towards the transgender community at all. In fact, if you look at my body of work, I've always been pretty vociferous in defending them and calling for them to be treated equal to anyone else in society. But I think sometimes you'll have those who want to like push the limits, and it's never about the important stuff. It's more about things like language, right? And they were turning a lot of people off, including people who are on their side.
So let's get specific about what you're talking about. Because
Yeah.
we know what you're talking about, but I'm sure a lot of the viewers are...
So like just really goofy rhetoric, like birthing people and
Right. So someone called...
chest feeder. And
Did someone call you a birthing person? That was the...
Yeah. Okay. So yes. Okay. It happened. Yes. In a medical setting, but I don't care. Like I don't need to be called a birthing person.
Is that from a doctor?
Yeah. And it's on medical forms too now. Like I don't know if it's all throughout California.
never heard
Did you have to put your gender anywhere on this sheet, or was it just birthing person checkbox?
It was no. It wasn't a checkbox situation. It was a form that I had to fill out, and in the language of the form, rather than using the word woman, birthing person was used. Another form used a person with a uterus, and it's just like, I just felt like it was awkward, and I didn't like it. That's all I was saying, by the way. Like, I don't like this, and I think it's goofy, and I think it turns people off, and that led to like an insane firestorm that I did not expect.
Who is getting upset at you for saying that? We always talk about this massive cohort of people that will just attack you if you say the wrong thing. But I feel like, honestly, they hardly exist. Maybe
right
that's not
that.
true.
Well, they're very loud.
They're very loud.
It's a loud minority, but the
One
people
has
that get
the voice of 100, I feel like.
But to call you a birthing person rather,
Yeah.
that just sounds like something that I would have like done in like kindergarten. Like not trying to offend
What would be the
anybody here. I
male
don't want them to come after me.
What would be the male equivalent of that? Does that exist?
Penis wielding person.
No, it's got to be
Ejaculating
sperm.
person.
That would be hilarious.
I am an ejaculating person.
But it is interesting because none of that conversation exists when it comes to inclusive language in the male realm. Like a lot of that
and
is
it's not
there's
important.
There's not
And it's
really
just-
a male
it's really interesting, and I don't know why it is. But anyway, like at this point, I don't care. Like, I don't care about any of it. Like, I don't care about any of that stuff. I don't care about the criticism I'm getting. But the reason why I bring it up is we had a transgender fill-in host at TYT. Her name's Benny. When Benny began at TYT, she hadn't transitioned yet. And so I met Benny before the transition and before Benny was even out about her identity. And I was always super nice to Benny. We never had any problems. Honestly, I barely even hosted the show with Benny. I think I might have done it once. Never really had any personal conversations. Remember, this is during COVID, so a lot of us were working from home. A lot of us didn't come into the office. I've never met Benny in person. And because of what I had shared with, the public about how I feel about some of this inclusive language, Benny felt, I don't know why Benny felt like it was a slight on her, but it wasn't. And there was a group of people on Twitter, and I knew this was going to happen. These people on Twitter who like take up a cause and then they become like weirdly obsessive with the cause. And they were just in Benny's ear about how, you have to hold Anna accountable, and TYT is not the place for you. It's a transphobic community. You need to leave. You need to leave. And they were like urging Benny to leave. And I just knew to myself, I thought to myself, if Benny takes their advice, she will have no platform and she will disappear. And none of these people who are encouraging her to leave give a damn about her. They're not going to follow her to wherever she's going to, do a show or launch a YouTube channel. This is their little cause right now. They think they're in a war and they're pretending like they give a damn about Benny. They don't give a damn about Benny. They give a damn about presenting themselves as people who purport to care about transgender people. But as soon as Benny's gone, as soon as she makes that decision to leave TYT, Benny's gone for real from their consciousness, from the media in general. And I think it's just, they did damage to Benny. And I don't know if Benny realizes it right now, but these people don't care at all. They don't care about making society better in regard to, all my focus would be is how can we ensure that we improve our healthcare system so people who do decide to make that transition, because remember, once you transition and if you go through the surgeries and everything, it's not a one-time thing. You need medical attention for the rest of your life. The priority should be, if you actually give a damn about transgender people, how do we reform our healthcare system so someone who does choose to transition doesn't go into bankruptcy because of the medical attention he or she is going to need for the rest of their lives?
I've always been curious, who pays for that? Does that come out of pocket, or
We
is
pay
that
for
something
that. We pay
insurance?
insanely high taxes. Look, let me just be clear. Right now, the way it gets paid is through private insurance. If you're lucky to have it, 20 million Americans don't have any insurance, no coverage at all. I think our healthcare system is broken, and a lot of times, you might get stuck with insurance. Let's say you get insured through your employer. You might get insurance that won't authorize a ton of your medical needs. So it really depends on what your specific situation is. But, when you think about transgender youth, a lot of them do get disowned by family members. A lot of them do end up homeless, and so my priority or my top concern in terms of improving their lives would be, okay, what kind of safety net are we going to have in place to catch them if and when they fall, Mm-hmm. And I always thought, obviously I'm good faith about that. And these are things that I've been talking about, not just this year, not just last year, but almost the entirety of my career. And I was just under the assumption that people know that I don't have an anti-trans bone in my body, but some of this language stuff is a little goofy.
How do you not get overly defensive over something like that? Somebody calling you transphobic. How do you not just explode or want to counter that and say, no, that's ridiculous? How do you develop a thick skin?
Well, in the beginning, I was defensive. And then this job is already really difficult. It's incredibly difficult. It would be impossible for me to enjoy any of this if I were just sucking up to people bullying me and saying things I don't actually believe. So whether the audience likes it or not, I'm going to tell them what I really believe. And we lost some paying members to TYT over this whole drama. And that's okay. God bless. I mean, do you? You don't need to be supporting the show financially if you think, the biggest injustice is that I don't want to be called a birthing person. But I just don't want. I have a tough time lying about what I really think. That's the hardest thing for me to do.
But how do you,
that's good. I mean,
but how do you not take these comments to heart? How do you not let that affect your day?
I have a lot of inner peace, and I know who I am. And I think since I know exactly who I am, the opinions of others that I know are inaccurate, I just don't let them get to me. I can't control what other people believe about me. I can control my own behavior. I can control how I feel about myself. And I don't want to say that I love myself or feel great about myself. I think I'm a flawed person, just like anyone else. And I look back at some of the things that I've done and said in my career, and I deeply regret some of it. But I have slowly but surely made an effort to correct some of my previous errors. A lot of them were during the pandemic. And I kind of got wrapped up in some of the narratives that were coming from the left during that time that turned out to not be so accurate. And so to me, what's the most important thing to me is getting my audience accurate information, then being honest with them about what I actually feel and genuinely feel about these stories. And if I get something wrong, ensuring that I correct those errors and do so as loudly as I can and openly as I can, because I want to do good in the world through the work I do. And I don't think you can do that if you mislead people or misinform people.